Hey, this is Kevin from Let Me Tech You, and in this video we're going to be talking about creating dynamic expressions. Dynamic expressions in Terraform allow you to compute or generate values for your infrastructure configuration, and this allows you to make expressions that can be simple strings, integer values, or more complex values. But in this video we're going to be going over how to do something as far as using like a conditional expression to generate some tag names, and then also an ability to use such as a conditional count criteria to create resources based on like a true or false variable, or there's other ways you can go about it. But so let's get started here. So I'm going to be using this resource group here, and what we're first going to do is we're going to create a variable in a resource in a locals block that's going to create a condition to evaluate to true and name our tags based off that condition. So what I mean here is, so let me go ahead and I'm going to keep it all in the same file here. So I'm going to do a resource block called random, and this is just like a random resource Terraform that can generate some random characters and things like that for testing purposes, or random passwords, stuff like that. So what I'm doing is just creating this random resource, and then I'm going to create a locals block. Now, if you haven't used a locals block, it's basically allows you to do expressions so you can use like these values multiple times within your code without having to say, do some repetitive code. Like, so I usually use locals blocks when I want to like say create the same type of resource multiple times, but I don't want to create that same resource block again and again. So I'll do like a for each and then loop through my locals and then grab the values and create the resource from there. So now that we got the locals block started there, I'm just going to do a name equals, and what we're going to do is so if you're familiar to programming, there's you can do some conditionals like for eaches and if else's, things like that. So basically how conditional expressions work, it's basically going to be evaluated based off of if the whatever is here. So I'm going to say whatever var dot name. Actually, I'm going to make another variable called name, and then default is going to be Kevin RG. So what I'm saying is var dot name is not equal to blank. So as long as if var dot name is not blank, then, which is question mark, var dot name, assign this value to the local value. And then what I'm going to do is, if that isn't true, else, which is done by the colons, or the what is this? I always forget what the double, let me Google that here. Colon, yeah, colon, okay. So if that's going to be else, evaluate to else, and then our false value. So we're going to say assign the random id dot hex. I'm taking the hex value of whatever's in here. So now I'm going to create a tag off this. So I'm going to call this common tags. And this is going to equal name equals local dot name. So now let's see here. We're basically saying if the resource group, or if the name is not blank, then assign it the var dot name. So variable dot name. Else random id dot hex is what's get assigned to that local value. So then we're creating a map that says comment underscore tags is name equals local dot name. And then now what we're going to do is in my resource group, I'm going to create a tags local dot common tags. And then from there, what we can do is when we create this resource group, it should, when we run our Terraform plan, show the value that this tag is going to be. So that's a conditional expression, and then surely we'll get into creating a conditional count expression. So as you can see, it's a random ID getting generated, but it's also creating this random tag here, or this common tag name called Kevin RG. Now to evaluate to the false statement, I'm going to blank this out. And let's run the plan again. And so then this, and the only thing with this is since this hasn't ran yet, it may not get the hex value. So it's going to say known after apply. So basically what this is, since hex isn't known yet, it's going to add that tag in there after it's applied. So basically that's how you do the conditional expression. You don't have to do this in locals block. You can do it for various other things, that use if, else, and then statements. So then what we're going to do is I'm going to use the same resource group, but let me switch this back. Just put Kevin in there. So what you could do is, like, let's say you want to do something that evaluates to, I'm going to use count. It's not recommended to use count. You should be using for eaches when you're doing things like, trying to create multiple types of resources, because it's easier to evaluate the index in which you're grabbing your resources, and if they change, since the index isn't changing, if you do change the order of your resources, it'll initiate a destroy because the index changed. And I'll show you what I mean here. So I'm going to do a count, and I'm going to create a variable called, say, high availability. Variable high available, and then I'm going to say type equals Boolean default equals true. And it doesn't have to be this, but I'm just trying to make it simple. So basically, I'm going to say if the var dot high available equals true, then give me 3 instances. Else, just give me 1. So you see what I'm doing there. So basically, if this equals true, give me 3 instances for high availability. Else, just create 1. Now, this isn't going to create 3 because it's all going to be the same name. So I'm just going to do the plan. I'm going to show you what I meant here by the index as well. So whenever you do a count, you're going to see here where it pops up. It's taking a sweet time here. Okay, you can see where it is doing the index 2, 1, 0. If these change, it actually changes the resources order. So Terraform thinks that the resources have changed or they've been updated. So it's going to initiate a destroy to recreate those. That's why it's not beneficial to use count whenever you're trying to create multiple resources. But basically, as you can see, it does see that this evaluated to true, so it's trying to create three. But if I try to run this, it's going to fail because you can't create three resource groups using the same name and the same subscription and region there. So so that's basically it there. That's just a way to essentially use conditional expressions to dynamically generate and build code that's more flexible, resilient to different regions that you deploy in. You can use conditional expressions for things that could be in reference to things like this, where you're wanting to see, hey, if there is three availability zones in this region, deploy three instances in each availability zone versus have to actually statically define any of that. Another thing I want to kind of get into is what's called splatting. So I'm not going to actually create that, but just to kind of give you an idea, let's say I had three particular instances here, and that gets created. What I could do is I could essentially say, I could create an output, and let's say, what, I want the first resource group that gets built. So I can do output. Let's call it first. Let's go output and first resource group. And then I'm going to do value equals Azure RM resource group main. I want the first one, and then .id. So essentially what this would do would be, whenever the resource group is deployed, it's going to give me the first resource group in this section of three and give me the ID of that resource group. So that's called splatting. That's a way to kind of get values of particular instances or outputs defined by its index, whether it's 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. So again, that's conditional creating dynamic expressions. If you have any questions, leave me a comment down below. I'll be sure to get back with you. Again, thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you next time.